Welcome to Mainstream Moto. I'm Mike, and today we're going to be reviewing the Scorpion EXO-at950. Now, I've had this helmet for a couple months now. I've ridden with it in a variety of weather and conditions, and I think I got a pretty good idea as to what this helmet is all about. The first thing about this helmet that kind of draws you to this thing is its versatility. If you're an enduro rider or a cruiser, anywhere in between there or whatever, you can configure this helmet to match whatever type of riding you do. If you have a couple different styles of riding that you do, like myself, I'll ride a little bit of trails, and I like to have this on. I can put my head down as I go through some sticks and brush to protect the visor. If I'm going on a little bit longer of a ride on the highway, I can take this off, make it a little bit more streamlined, and so it works really good for those kinds of things. It is a modular helmet, and they don't lie. This stays open really, really good. And it stays closed really good. It's not going to drop down in front of your face when you don't want it to. If you want it up, it's going to stay up, which is nice. Latches down good and solid. Now the front visor is really nice. Closes really good, keeps all of the rain out of here. Doesn't leak or anything like that. Also, the sun peak cuts through the wind pretty well. It does have a little bit of pulling as you turn your head from side to side as expected, but as far as just cutting through the air as you're going straight down the road, it does a pretty good job. Now the two vents, you can't really see this one very well, but has one vent up here, has the next vent down here. This one has two settings. This one allows a little bit of air to go into the visor. That one allows it to get into the helmet so that you can get a little bit of cool air in there. It also has a drop-down sun visor, which actually works really, really well. It's easy to take out, it's easy to clean, it's easy to put back in, and works really well. Now, some people don't really like the way that this is positioned, but I think that this is actually positioned really well because it doesn't get in the way of mounting your camera. If you mount a camera on your helmet, it also doesn't get in the way of your comm system. So having it up here, it's not hard to find once you know where it is. You get used to it, you can find it no problem whatsoever. Now, to make this review just a little bit different than all the rest of them, I'm going to point out some of the downsides, some of the disappointments of this helmet. The first one, they talk a lot about how this shield, as well as the inside shield, has some kind of film on it to keep it from fogging. I don't know what kind of film they put in there, but this helmet does fog up. I've had this thing have fog show up on the lens in like 60 degrees Fahrenheit. That's way too warm for fog to be forming. Not as you're riding it. As you're riding it, it does okay. I've noticed that you do get a little bit of buildup right around here. If I'm riding on a slower road, something where I'm going about 30, 35, 40 miles per hour, and this isn't open all the way, and the visor isn't cracked open or anything, so if it's raining, you got this thing shut down to keep the rain out, you'll get a little bit of fog buildup, regardless of what kind of magical film they've painted in there. Another thing about the lens is this is the smallest setting that you have. I would have really liked to see a setting that just barely cracks it open, just enough to get a little bit more wind in there, but it doesn't. That's your first setting right there, and it's open a lot. You crack it open in the rain like that, you get rain all over your face. And speaking about keeping rain out, another thing is that this front, even with this completely shut, and this completely shut, somehow it does get rain coming in this front vent. Rain will still find its way in and get your mouth and your chin wet. Now that's not that big of a deal, but if you're wearing like a balaclava or something, eventually if you're riding in the rain for a long duration, your mouth is going to be just soaked over time. One of the complaints is that it's a bit tight when you get it in the cheeks. And that is true. It's actually so tight that it feels like it's cutting off circulation right over here. It does loosen up over time. What I did with mine is I actually cut like a block of wood, wrapped it in duct tape, and I shoved it right underneath those straps, and I just let it sit there when I wasn't wearing it. It took a couple days, 2 or 3 days of it doing that, and it actually feels a lot better now. So if you're having difficulties with that, give that a shot. The cheek pads do loosen up a bit over time. It doesn't take that long, and it fits fairly comfortable now as far as tight cheek pads go. Now another downside to this helmet is it is loud. This is probably one of the loudest helmets I've ever worn.
So like this is the G-Max. You can hear, I actually have a balaclava on with this, but you can see right now, speedometer says about 80, so I'm probably not going quite that fast, but you can kind of tell what the audio quality sounds like.
And this is the Scorpion at about the same speed. You can see. Yeah, there's about 80 right there. So at the same speed, this is what the Scorpion sounds like. It definitely feels louder. I can barely even hear myself talk. I think this mostly pertains to someone who's possibly going to use this helmet for vlogging. Man, it's loud enough to where I can't even hear myself think.
I was able to try on a couple showies just to kind of get a comparison as to how loud it was, and even compared to my cheap G-Max, this is a very loud helmet. Now the vents do work pretty good. With this sun peak on though, it does restrict a bit of the airflow into this top vent. This top vent actually works really good. Probably works better if you don't have hair, but I've noticed that it actually works really well. You can definitely you can feel air flowing right over the top of your head, but this sun peak does restrict some of that airflow. So in hot weather, it might be a good idea just to take this off, whether you're on or off-road. Another thing I've noticed is when wearing this helmet off-road, if you get into kind of an aggressive stance, you will feel a bit of tightness, at least I do. Feel a bit of tightness in the back of the neck. So when you're trying to look further down the trail or further down the dirt road instead of right in front of you, it starts to push down on your eyebrows and adds a little bit of stress to your eyebrows in the back of your neck when you do that. So it's almost like there's just not quite enough room in the back of the neck here. Another thing I would have liked to see, I guess this is the cheap side of me coming out, is I would have liked to see a visor that actually is compatible for a pin lock. I understand a helmet can't come with every little bit that you need, but having a visor that will accept a pin lock, it seems reasonable to me, but that's not that big of a deal. Now some of these may not be deal breakers for you. You might ride in a way that doesn't actually bring out any of the negative aspects of this helmet whatsoever. You might be an in-town rider that rides on sunny days and no off-road. You wouldn't have any problem with rain. You wouldn't have any problem with the tightness in the neck or on the eyebrows, or even the wind noise if that was the case. Overall, I think it's a pretty good helmet. I think it's a pretty solid helmet, and if it's going to do what you need it to do. But I would say that the main shining features of this helmet is the modular design, the aerodynamic sun peak, the drop-down sunshade for sure, and overall, it's a pretty good helmet. So that is my review of the Scorpion EXO-at950. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it gave you a little bit of insight as to how, as to what this helmet is about. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.